Now the 11 by 14 marker paper, it's going to fit. You have to trim it to 11 by 14. Yours is 11 by 17, I think. So we just have to trim a little bit off. And when you place it, do that before you place it over your grid. Because if you don't, you may be using space that you don't have. So trim it beforehand. It's got to go back into your sketchbook. And with your references, you begin to modify the box. Now, the most important thing to notice are the proportions, and you have a given proportion. You have one already. So I wouldn't use a ruler quite yet. I would do it freehand with your pencil, and then use the ruler after you've got it blocked in. So this is a given. Everybody is going to have the 1.5 feet for the height of their seat of their chair. Everybody. So no matter what your sofa looks like, that's what everybody's going to use. Otherwise, the back of our knee for your person, it's not going to work. She's going to look incorrect, and the sofa will look way too small. Also, everybody is going to go out to the full 7 feet. It doesn't matter what your picture looks like, you go out to the full 7 feet. And at the edge here, I find it best to start thinking about my relative proportions, and I've marked them off here. So you can see the arm is smaller space than the upholstery. From the cushion down to the bottom of the upholstery is a much bigger measure. But they all measure, this measures a little less than the top, and this measures a little less than the top, but these look equal. So if I put a bigger slice, so there's my seat in my chair, and I look at my arm, and the arm seems a little too high for my arm, so I'm going to adjust that. Arms are flexible. Seat height is not. Seat depth isn't either. You should keep the same seat depth. And now I'm looking at the upholstered part, and this looks convenient. I'll use this for the upholstered part. Half is my cushion. And the arms themselves are much thinner than the ones I have here. I think you'll all find that. They're much thinner. And you bring that back. You bring this back until it touches the back of the sofa. Make sure it touches the back of the sofa. And then you can go down. And after this, you see you've made a box for the arm. Now you need the vanishing point again so that it matches up and you're at the back. So I don't need this now. This is in the wrong place. I need the width here. I think that will be much more indicative of a regular looking sofa as well. We went a little overboard on our arm. And now I'm starting to think about the actual shape, and it's curved here. Very, very curved. That's what I liked about it. This arm actually slants a little, so I can slant mine a little. If you slant at the front, slant at the back, and round it out. And this is really plump, so I can make it a little plump back there. And don't forget, we all have the top because we're below eye level. Then, now the leg, it's like my coffee table. The legs are recessed back, so I can look at that. They're even with the front, looks like. Some of this you'll have to guess at, but just base it on your own aesthetic. If you like it being right at the edge, and I do, I think it would be more stable, then I'm going to do it that way. Just ignore your coffee table for now. Just put it in. And we're not worried too much about straight lines. We can straighten them with our ruler when we get it straight. So now we have the approximate proportions. And on the other side, we do the same thing. We bring this across with your ruler so that you get it in the right spot. And bring this across, and this across, this across. and you start again. You can actually, on a piece of paper, take a measure of your arm. Bring your arm over. It's good too to start eyeballing some of these things. It helps, I think. So that was a little angled, so I'm going to angle that and angle that. And it does go a little faster if you're not, oops, wrong size. I'm down here. It does go a little faster if you do this pencil work first and then go in with your ruler and clean it up. So now I'm not so much looking at my picture as I am my drawing. There comes a time when you fix one side and it's more important to get it to jive with the other side than anything else. And this is one of those times where it's important to get it to look balanced. So that's about that. And now there is a way to drop this box onto the floor and get an easier way to divide. It's seemingly easier way to divide up your cushions, but I think one of the best ways of all is to just start somewhere, be wrong, and then fix it. So I'm going to take a stab at 3 equal cushions, but I'll be wrong. I know that already, but that's all right. I'm just going to try it and until I get them right. So please leave lots of time for this. This is not a walk in the park. This takes some doing. So you've got to really take your time with all of it. So until you get something that works. So I won't keep doing this, but this I would keep doing it until I got something that worked. And this seems to work. This one and this one. Whoops, this one. And then don't forget, keep using your vanishing point. That's crucial. I see drawings sometime and there are these wild angles and I can't figure out where they came from. So don't have that happen to you. Make sure you keep track of your angles. And then I can start to round it out now. And then I could go back with my pen. Whoops, this is wrong again. I was really off on this arm. And there isn't really any need to keep erasing. You just wait until you get your ink out. I'll take this across. And we're not inking in this week, so after I finish talking, I'm showing you this where you clean it up, but we're not going to clean it up until next week. So next week we have a check-in, two of your marks. You'll be given 2 of your marks for having this completed, this line drawing. Just a detailed line drawing, no shading or anything like that. 2 of the marks from our assignment, 2 of our 10 marks will be for next week for a check-in that you have it done. You don't submit check-ins online. You just bring them in and I'll check it off for you. And then along with all of this, we have some tufting. So you would plan out your tufting. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's probably about 8 of them. So from the middle, I'll need a space and then 4. And then you'd figure it out the same way. You just space it out. Now cushions seem like they would be the easiest thing in the world, but you really too have to plan them out. If this one is kind of lounging in the corner here, both of them are, so you have to get the feel of them resting, so that it's resting against that, and it's up against that, so you get a feel. And because they're quite important to the decor, they're these cushions. So you want to make it look as if it's resting against. It's soft. Soft furnishings, you need to show that they are malleable. And put them in front of the back of the sofa. I can't tell you how many times I see the cushion built into the sofa. It needs to come out. So you start outside and then up against and so on. So, and then you, as I say, you would clean it up again as you went along. Over here we have our shelves. And you're going to need to know at all times the depth of that shelf. You'll need to know it because you have to keep your elements from looking as if they would lean over the shelf. So now I have a interesting shelving. Mine drops down, and it comes up, I think, but mostly it drops down and comes up. So that's how you would do it if you had something similar. If you make an X, that X again, you'll know whether or not what you're putting on your shelf is going to fit. So if I'm putting something in the middle, for example, I've only got that much space to put it in. If I put something here, that's how much space I have. So you've got to limit yourself to that space. So you know already if you're starting something in here with your pencil that it's got to fit like that. And you have to kind of see through it if you're doing a shelf over top too, because you won't see it. And that'll make a difference. And then the height, if you have another shelf going on above it, you have to make sure it's not going to be too high. I've seen so many shelves with things that just couldn't possibly have fit on them. It seems like a silly thing, but it's important. It doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense. So there's the shelf above. So you have to cut this off before that happens. Same thing with round things. Make sure that they will fit the diameter across. So if you've got something that's round, you have to make sure that the back of it stops here, at least. It should stop a little sooner, but that it at least stops there, and then the center of it here. There's room for it on the shelf. Little things, but they make it is important. Draperies and things, soft furnishings. Don't forget that they drape. They're soft, so look really closely at your reference pictures so you get a feel for it. And to make thicknesses, this kind of curl indicates thickness, so you get a feel that fabric is thick. It's not a sheer. Shears fall kind of straight. At the bottom, they can pool. So if they're nowadays, they kind of bunch and pool at the bottom. So watch and see where it's kind of crossing over as well. I should use the black pen. So, and don't have too many verticals that it looks stiff. These are soft, so you want to make it look soft and be really conscious of how it's draping. And where it's kind of bunching, so you get a feel for it. We have to do it in ink too, so we'll have to be careful. And you have grommets. If you have grommets, then on this side of the vanishing point, you'll see your grommets on this side. So for our vanishing points here, you'll see grommets on this side, and they curl like that. Your drapery curls. You might see a little bit there, or you might just go ahead and just put the drapes themselves. And on the other side of the vanishing point, they would go the other way, of course. So you'd see a little bit of the and again, you'd go that far, and then when it got to the ground, you'd start to go up, and you'd leave an empty space here because that's where the light is hitting, so you get the feel of light in your line work. And pinch pleats are just 2 V's, and you dip them, not kind of subtly. You don't do it to make it too exciting, because we don't want to just look at the pinch pleats. We want to see the whole space. So you can just do some pinches, and again, up, down from the top, up from the bottom. Just make it simple. I think most everybody's looking at a round light. So this part is the underside of your light. So whatever shape your light is on your reference picture, it might look like this. We'll take one. We'll take a simple one. I'll show you a simple one. So maybe on your reference, your light fixture looks like that. Let's hope it doesn't, but it might. Okay, because that's a weird looking thing. So let's say it looks like that. Now they've shot it so that you can see the overall shape of it, but when your room, it's not going to look anything like that, is it? So what you would do, we know where it's hanging from now, and we know you do your proportions. You know how much proportion you need, so that's about a little less than half, so that seems fine. That'll go to the center of my light. Don't forget, this represents that where your actual light is hanging from. The top of the very top of the light is there. This is just space around it. So I would make my circle diagram here. If you want to hang your light a little lower, I think it might be a little dangerous though, because this is, I think, the maximum that we could do, because someone 6 feet could bang their head on it if they're walking in between the coffee table and the sofa. Okay, so here we go. We've got our diagram for our circle. So you would just divide up into your thirds, like we always do. So you see those geometric shapes in action, and that's what your opening would look like. And that is 2 feet wide, so that's a big light, 2 feet wide. And this being a triangle, I would do this. I would just join the sides. So that makes it a little bit easy. And put the markings on it. But that doesn't look like this light, does it? Because this one is skinnier. If my original box is like this, and I know that that's going to give me, that's why you do the tracing paper, because I would have found out that would have given me too big an opening. I wouldn't have liked the opening. So what I would do is, again, make that X and make a smaller box here. And then I would make my circle in the smaller box and join it up. And I would have been happier with that. And don't forget, though, the place that it's actually at is in the middle of this box. It's not at the top. It's at the middle, in the center here of that top box. And that's where it would hang from. And it looks more now like the light that I started with. So you had to make the box a little smaller. You might have to make your box a little larger, or you may have to change it altogether. The 2-point object, now whatever you plan to do with that, supposing you wanted to put your 2-point object out here instead, against this, it can't go against a wall. Let's see what happens if we try to put it against a wall. You'll see. It doesn't work because, now when you draw the 2-point object, start with the corner first, and then use your 2 vanishing points. I noticed in some of the work that people didn't use their 2 vanishing points for the box in the corner. That's crucial because it gives you the right shape. See, this would never sit against the wall very well. See, just the corner would touch the wall, but the object itself would not. So we can't put it against the wall. Now, if you want to turn your light fixture into a square like this, you could change it. As long as it's a square, the 2-point object has to be a square. Otherwise, you could make a circle out of 1 point, and I'd never know that you had a 2-point object. So you see, if this is the wall here, because I see this all the time, people putting 2-point things on a wall, a 1-point wall. You can't do that. See, so that's the wall, and this is our object. It's just the corner of the object that's against the wall. But you can make it freestanding. See, it doesn't actually do very well against the wall. But you could change this into a little chair, maybe even. So we've drawn a chair, so you know how to. It would be in the way, though. There isn't room for it here. And don't forget, too, that these being on the diagonal measure larger than the squares on the floor. Remember when we tried that out, we measured the box, and it was 1.5 feet across rather than 1 foot. So when you do the diagonal, it's larger, measures larger. Okay, but that 2-point thing can go anywhere on the coffee table or at the back. You can leave it as something there, but don't put it against a wall or on a wall.